Hello, everyone, once again. This is Rob, and welcome back to Media Awareness and another Doctor Who episode review. This time of The Devil's Chord, the most recent episode of Doctor Who to air on Disney Plus here in the States. Before I get to that, however, a quick reminder the fundraiser continues. For those of you unaware, I am a disabled individual, and I use a motorized wheelchair slash scooter all day, every day for my independence, and I desperately need your assistance. My insurance will not cover anything with regard to my scooter. It's viewed as a quote luxury item end quote. Therefore, I'm reaching out to you, my YouTube community, for your help. Below the title of this video in the description, you'll find a spot fund link. You'll find it there, as well as in a separate section below the actual description itself. Any and all help is welcome. It takes a few seconds to contribute, and it really goes a long way. Every little bit helps. My goal at this point in time is to restore and continue the refurbishing of my existing scooter. I am unable to walk whatsoever, unable to use any other type of motorized wheelchair or scooter for that matter, and I'm unable to use a standard wheelchair as I only have primary use of one hand and limited at that. In addition to that, I do not have a backup just in case this fails. So if this scooter does fail, I am a fish out of water and therefore dependent on anyone and everyone to help me out on a daily basis with everything. And being that I pride myself on my independence and I thrive on independence, I do not want to be reliant on people to that degree. So please do what you can. It is definitely appreciated. I do want to extend the gracious thanks to those who have contributed thus far, in addition to those who plan on contributing, as your contributions have and will make a world of difference in my life. They will allow me to obtain the parts necessary to refurbish my scooter, as well as pay the trained technicians to install these parts. So it goes a long way, and like I said, it is definitely appreciated. Thank you all. I love you all. On with this review. Is it okay, dog? Is it okay, babe? My dog Canine is coughing, and yes, he is named Canine after Doctor Who's, well, after the Doctor's dog. For those of you who are fans of classic Doctor Who, as well as potentially the Sarah Jane Adventures, you know the canine I'm referring to. Mine, though, is a real dog, and he is my canine. He's also very old. So, I'm fortunate that he is still hanging on and still doing well. Anyway, I digress. The Devil's Chord is the most recent Doctor Who episode. Now, this dropped on the same day as Space Babies. Yes, my review for that is on my channel as well. So if you haven't seen that review, check it out. Please do. I don't want to dwell on Space Babies. Let us dwell on The Devil's Chord. A far better episode, in my opinion, to some degree, and still faltering in some areas, but I will get to that. So, this review will contain spoilers, just so you know. So if you haven't watched it, please go watch it and come back. If you don't care, keep on watching. It's all good. So, we start out with a pre-title sequence of a composer, piano teacher teaching a student, and it is at that point that he reveals this hidden mystery chord, the devil's chord, if you will. And when he does play this chord and show the child this chord, everything starts to go haywire, and you hear rumbling from inside the piano, like banging to get out. And when the piano lid is lifted, out comes a new character known as the maestro. Now, if you recall the regeneration episode, um, the toy maker did say that there were more coming, or something to that effect. That there to expect more, that there were more coming, more on the way. I forget the exact phrasing, but there was a sort of foreshadowing of more really unstoppable and potentially unseen enemies than we have seen before in Doctor Who. So, this entity makes itself known, and um, she sits at the piano and plays immaculately, but also is talking and illustrating her point that um, basically this chord is the key to music and to really the root of all melody and joy and happiness. And um, as she's playing, you could see these music notes being sucked out of the teacher slash composer. And you then hear her play the introduction to the Doctor Who theme on the piano, which I thought was a really good way to open this episode. Loved it. And I'm referring to this individual as a she um, because she is a drag queen, and when drag queens are in drag, they are referred to as she. So therefore, I will be referring to the maestro as she, just so you're all aware of that. So, with that out of the way, we get to the Doctor and Ruby Sunday in the TARDIS, and um, he asks her where she'd, like to go, basically, and um, she wants to see the Beatles. So the Doctor takes her back to the very beginning of the Beatles, presumably. Um, when they were first recording Please Please Me, the first Beatles album, at what was to become Abbey Road Studios, what was then known as EMI Studios, for those of us Beatles geeks. Um, I'm not sure about the details on. I didn't do any research following this because I want to say they started recording there in '62, not '63, and Please Please Me was released in '63. I could be wrong though. It may have been recorded and released in '63, followed by With the Beatles, which was the second album. For those of us accustomed to the catalog, at least the British catalog. As many of you may know, the US catalog differed because they couldn't agree on what would be marketed well in the US. So the first two British Beatles albums were combined in America to make the album in America known as Meet the Beatles. I digress. Nevertheless, the Doctor and Ruby make their way across the crosswalk from Abbey Road, the famous crosswalk, which is depicted on the Abbey Road album cover. And they walk in to EMI and uh, there's they make their way to the Beatles manager, uh, Brian Epstein, who I'm glad they mentioned because without him, the Beatles would not really have uh, a contract at that point in time. He'd signed them. He was a businessman. He wasn't really really um, knowledgeable in the merchandising field, as many would know later on when they find when it was revealed in Beatles history that very little was put into them as far as revenue they were actually making on things sold. That's a different topic for a different video on the Beatles. Nevertheless, when they get into the actual recording area where the Beatles are working on the Please Please Me album, presumably, they're singing a song about a dog and very off key and very um, downtrodden, for lack of better words. And uh, they take a break, and the doctor and Ruby, knowing that something's wrong, have a conversation with John and Paul in the cafeteria, and the doctor talks to Paul, which I think was a very bad idea, and Ruby talks to John. And the reason why I say the doctor talking to Paul is a bad idea is because Paul tended to write the happier songs and the more love songs for the Beatles. Um, yes, he collaborated with John early on for a lot of the Lennon McCartney collaborations, but Paul was always more the lovey-dovey type of guy, lyrically speaking, and um, when the doctor's talking to him, you couldn't see this glint in his eye, in Paul's eye, and just like, yeah, I do think about being happy every now and then. And the maestro is in every reflection everywhere at that point. And everyone just gets really, really depressed. And um, Paul says, I shouldn't have even thought of that. John walks away from Ruby. Doctor and Ruby go up to the roof of Abbey Road, which is also famous from Let It Be. And they go up there and bring a piano up there, and Doctor has heard Ruby start playing a song that he heard her play when he was sort of just, um, I guess, scoping her out as a possible companion, for lack of sounding creepy. Um, Instead of stalking her, I think that sounds a little better. Um, so basically, she starts playing this song, and the piano releases the maestro, who then, through a course of events throughout this uh, ordeal, they eventually end up back in EMI, and the doctor and the maestro are basically doing a competition musically to see who could come up with um, basically the better tune, and basically to see if the doctor at one point can come across the devil's chord. And he plays the improper chord, and he is sucked away into a timpani, timpani drum, and Ruby is trapped in, I believe it's cello, I think. Um, because it was in the orchestral hall of EMI. And the piano that the doctor had been using flew out the door and down the hall, and John and Paul go over to it, and John looks at Paul and says, just play, let's just play this. And they both hit the chord at the same time, which is significant in Beatles history because for those of you who are Beatles fanatics will also know that at the end of the Sgt. Pepper, uh, at the end of the album, not the song, the last note to be played in A Day in the Life is this particular chord, played on 5 pianos, I believe, for the recording of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album. Four pianos were played by the Beatles, and the fifth one, I believe, was played by George Martin. Please correct me in the comments if you'd be so kind if I'm wrong. But they play the chord. The maestro basically is vanquished at that point, you could say, but gives a sort of cryptic message to the doctor that there are more on the way, or something to that effect. And uh, everything goes back to normal. Happiness returns. Everyone's singing, and there's lots of joy outside. All the bells are ringing in London, and all is well. And um, the doctor makes a comment that the things always end with a twist. And then the episode. Oh god. Yeah, my cat's just the best. The episode goes into another dance number with much choreographed dancing and singing and up and down the hallways of EMI. And although this would have been not that unexpected for an episode featuring the Beatles or in it, um, we had a dance number in the Christmas special. We had a dance number in the episode prior to that, the last episode featuring David Tennant. And I hope this isn't going to become a running theme in Doctor Who, and with this particular Doctor specifically, because it's already gotten old with this twist thing that they did. It went on for way too long, and it wasn't really all that um, creative, I guess you could say. Uh, it was catchy for the first minute that they played it, but it went on for a good solid 2 to 3 minutes. I don't know, it seemed like it went on for a lot longer. Maybe it was only 1 minute, but it seemed a lot longer. It shouldn't have went on. It should have been just one little verse and that was it. But no, they had to drag it out. And the Lady Doctor and Ruby leave, and presumably everything is set right with the world and back on track. There was a point where Ruby and the Doctor went forward in time to visit 2004. 2004? 2024, I'm sorry. Wow, I'm way back in 2004. My mind is elsewhere, I'm sorry. And he takes her there to show her what the world is like without music, without happiness, without joy. And it's just this like apocalyptic nuclear wasteland. And basically Fallout London, if it ever comes to fruition. But it uh, it wasn't a pretty sight. And so when they got back to the 60s and were able to put things right, all was well. But still, there is that missing time frame from the 1920s when the Maestro first came along to the 1960s. That was without happiness, without joy. It could be presumed or assumed, perhaps, that maybe it took that long for things to take its course worldwide. But I think things are pretty much instantaneous. It's hard to say because this new Doctor Who is very questionable as far as uh, had the plotting and writing, and you can't really question much when it comes to Russell T. Davies' writing and direction, as a lot of things don't have to be explained um, necessarily, and that goes with, and it's not a bad thing with his writing. It's more just a suspension of disbelief as far as um, certain things never being fully covered. Um, and that's fine. You know, I can live with that. Hopefully, everything is right with the world now, and everything can go on as planned. I'm curious to see what the next episode brings, and I will have that review for you this Friday when it airs, or this coming Saturday. I may watch it twice just so I have a better feel for it. Um, Hopefully, it does not have another dance number. If it does, I fear for Doctor Who. But I don't think it's going to. I think we're back on track. The rest of the episode was brilliant. I think it was really done well. I like that they focused on John Paul specifically, as opposed to Ringo and George. Not that Ringo and George were not significantly important to the Beatles' history, but early on, it was very John Paul centric. For those of you who are Beatles fans who would know this, um, especially the first album, it was very John Paul centric, musically speaking. But we never actually got to hear um, any Beatles songs really in the episode that I can remember hearing, which is weird for an episode featuring the Beatles. Maybe it's just me overanalyzing, but that is potentially problematic or a plot hole, perhaps. I don't know. Or I really don't know. The closest we got was John and Paul playing the chord at the same time on the piano, the way it was done on Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band several years later, when that was recorded. Because for those of you who are Beatles fans would know, the discography continued on for several albums before the Beatles retired from the road, became a studio band only, and recorded Revolver. And then Revolver was followed by the single of Strawberry Fields, with the flip side being Penny Lane, and then Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band was after that. So, but like I said, that was several albums later. And I'm not about to go through and count in my discography here. But yeah, it was a good episode. It was definitely good. It was borderline great. Had it not been for the dance number at the end, I think it would have been great. That really put me off, though. It really, really put me off. It wouldn't have been so bad if we wouldn't have had a dance number at the end of the Christmas special and one in the episode prior to that. But we did. And this is a little too close for comfort here. So I'm a little iffy on where we're headed in time and space. But we shall see. As we know that Time travel is wobbly wobbly, timey wimey, and who knows what's next or what's before. Think about that. This is Rob with Media Awareness. I hope you enjoyed this review of Doctor Who, The Devil's Chord, the newest episode featured on Disney Plus here in America. And I hope you didn't mind my Beatles rant and my Beatles trivia dump. But I figured it'd be helpful for those of you who were unaware of the actual history. I'm still questioning whether or not Please Please Me was started recording in 62. Because if it was, that would really mess things up if it wasn't even done in 63. Now that's going to bother me. I have to go look this up. Nevertheless, I will see you all again soon. Once again, a reminder, the fundraiser continues. Please do what you can. Any and all help is welcome. I truly mean that. I love you all. Thank you all for watching. Please consider subscribing to my channel as well, becoming part of the ever-growing family that is Media Awareness here on YouTube. And I will be having a review very soon, in the next day or so, of this album right here. The new Pearl Jam album, which I'm holding. Yeah, I'm holding it right. Dark Matter. And I'm also going to be having a album review very soon of the new Tangent album. When it arrives in the mail, it still hasn't arrived. It is coming from the UK, so it's being shipped from overseas. I expect a delay on that. But it should be here any day now as well. Looking forward to that. And a lot coming up. More reactions as well. I'm not sure what I'll be reacting to next. Who knows? If you have any requests you'd like me to react to something, put it in the comment section below and I will react to it if it's feasibly feasible. Sorry about that. I meant a lack for words. So, nevertheless, have a wonderful morning, noon, or night, wherever you are in time and space. Take care. Bye.